Cannot make this decision. It is too difficult.
Toy? Oh, it's not a toy.
Ask again later.
Taken out of bounds. Rogers along the sideline. Another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the man is out of the field.
He's not good enough.
Will GameDay Sports Radio pick me?
Has some time. Now he scrambles away from one hit. Looks. Uncorks a deep one for the end zone. Salem is down there. Oh, he got it! He got it! He got it! Touchdown!
I am ready for the crazy 8-ball challenge. Are you? GameDaySportsRadio.com.
Welcome to Game Day Sports Radio and this week's episode of College Football Crazy 8 Pick'em Challenge. Next week, fans, you will have the opportunity to see how you do against the 8-ball by visiting GameDaySportsRadio.com. You'll be able to submit your picks online, and if you do beat the 8-ball, you will be entered into a drawing to join our panel the following week, as well as the opportunity to win up to $5,000 in cash and prizes at the end of the season. How are you guys doing today, boys?
Doing well, except for that Purdue game last week. Thanks, Jeff Brom. Way to get not one, but two unsportsmanlike conduct penalties after you score the winning touchdown. Sure, Steve was real happy about that as he was watching that game.
I think that was the go-ahead touchdown, Coach, because I'm pretty sure Syracuse had the winning touchdown.
That's true. That is true.
Well, and I think that game loomed large because it was really Steve against the field last week. Steve went 6-4, while everybody else 5-5. The 8-ball still has yet to dip below 50%. 13-20 on the season for 65%. Steve with his 6-4, 12-20 on the season with 60%. Coach, you're even Steven, 50% all the way, 5-5. Not making much of a splash, but also, keeping your head above water.
Like a long distance. I'm like a long distance runner. I'm pacing myself.
You pace yourself. There you go. Well, it's early in the season too. It's hard to tell what some of these guys will do. Myself, 9-20 at 45%, and Will, just like Auburn, kind of coming up from behind, but maybe you got something to prove. Something's still in the tank. 8-20 on the season, 40%. But guys, we've got some exciting matchups this week. So after 2 weeks, the 8-ball still holds the crown. After the 2:30 game, there's a lot of good, tight, early matchups in the 11 a.m. games this week. I think it'd be nice to kick off a Saturday with some exciting action early in the day and kind of have it roll throughout the day. So, anyways, well, you guys want to add anything before we get started?
Ready to go.
All right, Steve. Well, with the UT being the leader last week, we're going to go ahead and give you the first pick. We're going to start with Clemson at Wake Forest, 11 a.m. game on ABC.
Well, somehow for a team that's ranked as high as Clemson has been over the past several years, it seems like DJ Uiagalelei and their offense have been putting up a lot of points and going a little bit under the radar. So I think it'll be a high-scoring affair. Even though it's on the road, I'm going to take Clemson.
Yeah, Will.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like Clemson on the road. I think the spread's 7. That kind of shocks me a little bit, but I got Clemson big on the road.
I'm gonna break with you guys on this one. I think that Clemson quarterback may have spent a little bit too much time in Fansville with that Dr. Pepper agreement he had. I think Wake Forest, they definitely seem to have a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. I mean, all week they've been talking about how this is a benchmark game. Wake Forest quarterback Sam Hartman out most of August with a medical issue. Feels like he's kind of got his groove and knocked the rust off. And, Clemson is still breaking in a new defensive coordinator while, probably don't break stride too much. There are some nuances there, and I just think Wake Forest gets it done at home. Coach?
Tigers are the easy pick here. They lead this series 69-17 in one tie. Last time Wake Forest won was back in 2008. I think that playing Liberty last week, playing that Hugh Freeze offense, I think that helps Wake Forest. And it's an early game. It's at Wake Forest. I'm going with the Demon Deacons too.
Yeah. It's a sellout. They seem to have a pretty rejuvenated and enthusiastic fan base right now from everything you've seen out there, and I just think it's going to be a good environment. So, Will, I know I gave you a little bit of a hard time about Auburn. I don't think anybody.
8-ball? Yeah, 8-ball.
Oh, the 8-ball did it again. So, the 8-ball goes with Wake Forest. How do you guys like that?
Uh-oh.
How do you like them apples? So, forgot about we got to do a little editing today. So, we all gave you a little bit of a hard time about Auburn. I don't think any fan of college football probably likes to see some of what Brian Harsin's had to go through in the offseason and this year. But, they do they need to bounce back against the Missouri team that comes in to Jordan-Hare, 11 a.m. on ESPN. What's your thoughts?
I like Auburn. TJ Finley's going to be out apparently this week with some injuries and stuff. So Robbie Ashford will get a shot to start. And, I think it all depends on the offensive line. Being there last week, it was super evident, especially in person, just watching them just get beat over and over and over. And, I think it all determines, the outcome of the game determines on how that offensive line plays. But I like Auburn. I think they bounce back and beat Missouri at home.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with you there too with Auburn. I think that their quarterback play is just not good. I don't think anybody can argue that. But I think their defense will do enough to keep them in the game. I don't think anybody can question what Tank Bigsby's doing. That kid's putting his heart and soul into every play and really grinding it out. And then I think Robbie Ashford does bring a little bit of an X factor in. I haven't seen a lot of him, and he does move well. So I think Auburn probably gets it done in a close game with it being at home, and I think their defense pulls them through. Coach?
Only guarantee here is the Tigers will win. I can't tell you which one, but one of them will win. Auburn looked atrocious last week versus Penn State. Missouri beat Abilene Christian, who not that long ago was a Division II school. These two coaches, Eli Drinkwitz and Brian Harsin, they're very familiar with each other. As a matter of fact, Drinkwitz was at Auburn in 2010 and 2011, went to Arkansas State with Malzahn, and Malzahn, of course, left after 1 year, came back to Auburn. Harsin got the Arkansas State job, and then Drinkwitz went with him to Boise State for a couple of years. So they know each other very well. They also know that each one of them needs a win really badly on Saturday. And if Auburn doesn't win this game, more than likely they're going to go winless in the conference. But the good news for Brian Harsin is the Arizona State job opened up this week. So on that note, I'm going to take the Tigers of Auburn.
Steve, is it going to be a clean sweep?
Well, the Auburn offense has struggled against San Jose State and against Penn State. Regardless of who's in their quarterback, their QBs have thrown 2 touchdowns and 6 INTs in their 3 games this year. With that being said, I look for Auburn to lean heavily on the running game. Tank Bigsby has a big day, and make it 4 out of 4 picking Auburn.
Okay. Will it be 5? No, it will not. The 8-ball goes with Missouri. So, and I think the trend has been in the past when all 4 of us have gone one way in the 8-ball has proven to be victorious. So we will see. Coach, is it too early in the season to start wondering, has the noise started to impact them? Have they, given up a little bit with, I mean, it almost feels like it's imminent that Harsin's gone. I mean, it's just like, it's not a matter of if, they're just waiting for the mistake to do it, which I think is not fair to him. But I mean, how does that impact the players down there? You've coached down there.
Well, I was down there 35 years ago as a GA, and Pat Dye was head coach. There was never any question who was in charge of the football program. And right now, and not really right now, but for the last couple of decades, since Coach Dye left, there's always been a question of who's actually in charge of the football program. And that stays the same. My prediction is this. If Brian Harsin runs the table from here, takes Auburn to the SEC championship game, wins the SEC championship game, somehow gets into the playoffs, I don't think it really matters. I think this Arizona State job opening up, that's a perfect fit for him. He's not an SEC guy. Arizona State's just a great fit for him. And I don't think Auburn's going to run the table. I'm just telling you, I think Harsin's out. And I think it's as much him wanting out as certain people wanting him out.
Well, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you after? I mean, they basically are just waiting for the shoe to drop. And, I think it's unfortunate too that, obviously boosters, have impact, and every school's got them. Every school's got their issues. But, there's players that are involved here that are given, everything they've got. And then, I think they need to, give him a chance through the rest of the season. So,
well, the players hear this, and the players, we always say, oh, we don't listen to what's said outside our building. That's a bunch of bull. You hear it, you know what's going on. And it does affect your mindset, whether you want to admit it or not, it does affect your mindset. But from a coaching standpoint, let me ask you, do you think Gus Malzahn is having more fun and enjoying coaching at Central Florida more than he did at Auburn? I can guarantee you he does.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just want to get that little extra insight from you there. Next game is in your backyard, Steve. SMU at TCU, 11 a.m. game on ESPNU. I will tell you, I think this is probably going to be a better game than it has been in years past. I think SMU's got some good things going. I think Lashley is doing some good things, and I think he's going to end up being a really good coach. I did question last week. It seemed like almost every time he had some momentum, he loved that inside run on third down, and it went nowhere. And they stalled, and it's tough to, I guess, explain how they lost to a Maryland team that had well over, I think 15 penalties for almost 150 yards. I think TCU gets it done in this one. I like what they're doing. I think they're balanced, being at home, and I think, with it being, just a crosstown rivalry, I think chip on their shoulder, like TCU pulls this one out. Coach?
Sonny Dykes drove west on I-30 for 40 miles to take the TCU job, clearly thinking that it's a better job. And this is even though his SMU squads have won the last two meetings in this matchup. I think the Mustangs would love to give their former coach the business. The Horned Frogs, they're still adjusting to an offense first, defense second philosophy, because under Gary Patterson, that was not the case. I like the ponies of SMU.
Steve?
People in this part of the country know that this rivalry game is called the Battle for the Iron Skillet. TCU's offense is better than Maryland's, and Maryland just beat SMU 34-27. So I think in a high-scoring shootout, I like Sonny Dykes' current team to beat Sonny Dykes' former team. Give me the Frogs.
Will?
I picked SMU last week because they're at Lashley, and they let me down. But not gonna run away this time. I'm going SMU at home in a close one.
SMU, okay. And with a split, two of us going to be happy and two of us not so much. Steve, the 8-ball agrees with us, TCU. Yes. So, but I think that's going to be a good game, and I actually think it's nice growing up in Texas, and to see that game kind of meaning something again, and taking some interest in there. I think it's good for the city, and I think it's good for college football. So, all right, Coach, that brings us to our next one, another Texas team, number 17 Baylor at Iowa State, another 11 a.m. game on ESPN2.
Last 4 games, the home team has won. They're playing in Ames. This may be Matt Campbell's best team that he's had there. But the Bears, they're no pushover at all, but I'm going to go with the Cyclones in a very close one.
Steve?
Baylor has been very good on defense this year, and Iowa State is trying to start 4-0 for the first time since 2000. The past 3 meetings have been decided by a total of 11 points, so I think this one will go right down to the wire, but I'll take Dave Aranda and the Baylor Bears.
Will?
I don't know. I'm gonna go Iowa State at home. Only because they're at home. But it's a coin flip.
I tell you, one time I've been to Ames, we searched up and down for a restaurant, and there was one restaurant that was packed, Old Hickory Park Barbecue, one of the best places to eat in Ames, Iowa. But I do think this is one of the better teams Iowa State has had in the last couple of years. I think their quarterback is playing very efficiently and managing the game well. They're balanced, and being at home, I think Iowa State gets it done as well. So, Steve, you're on the outside looking in because the 8 ball has Iowa State. So you might have an opportunity to make up some ground there, or actually gain some ground since you're leading. That leads us to the next game. Right again, another one. Texas is kind of leading the pack this week with marquee matchups. Number 22 Texas going up to the Panhandle in Tortilla Country. Texas Tech, 2:30 p.m. game on ESPN. Steve?
Both teams 2-1 coming into this battle. You know, for the Red Raider fans out in Lubbock, they always act like this is their Super Bowl. Biggest game on the calendar. They circle it every year. All the Red Raider fans think they got to beat Texas. And, you know, once every 15 or 20 years, it happens. But with Hudson Card playing well, Xavier Worthy on the outside, and Bijan Robinson running the ball, even on the road, I think Steve Sarkisian will hook the Red Raiders. Hook them.
All right. Will?
I got Texas in this one. I think pretty easy. I know it's a rivalry game, but I think they're playing with a lot of confidence. They lost against Alabama, but I think that was a major confidence booster. And I agree. I think Sarkisian's got them rolling. I think they win this one easy.
You know, I'd like to pick Texas, and I do like what Sarkisian's doing. I'm still not convinced Hudson Card can be consistent enough, especially on the road. And I'm just not sure, I'm waiting to see somebody else step up other than Bijan Robinson, and I mean, he's a great player, but sometimes you can only do so much. Texas Tech always seems to find a way, to win at home. I mean, their fans seem to find a way to pull it through. I'm going with Texas Tech. Coach?
Well, several years ago, Texas Tech cost Mack Brown a probable national championship at night in Lubbock. I can tell you that I spent a lot of time in Lubbock back in the early 90s recruiting and then also visiting with that Texas Tech staff when Spike Dykes, Sonny's dad, was the head coach. And one thing that Spike taught me, that when you are in Lubbock, that you have to go just north of, I guess it's Jones AT&T Stadium, or at least it was back then, to Furr's Cafeteria, where it's all you can eat. And I have heard that Furr's has kind of dropped off the face of the earth out there. But back in my day, that was the place to go. And you could eat all the chicken fried steak you wanted for a low, low price. And that's where I gained 30 pounds by coaching in New Mexico out there. But back to the game here. I think that Sark's boys, I think they keep this going. Texas Tech, they may pull the upset, but, hook 'em horns.
Coach goes with Texas. All right. Well, the 8-ball agrees with George, Texas Tech. So we got a lot of diversity today. We got a lot of variety. So we'll see where it goes. Will, that brings us back to you. Another interesting matchup. Minnesota travels to Michigan State. Michigan State obviously did not perform as a lot of people expected last week. Where do you think this one goes?
I'm going with Minnesota on the road. I don't know how, if they win big or they win small, but I think they get the job done. Obviously, I know it's going to be a tough environment. Michigan State does a great job with their atmosphere. But I'm going with PJ Fleck in this one. I got the Gophers.
Yeah. I think Minnesota's flying a little under the radar. No, they haven't really played anybody. I mean, I think New Mexico, I don't even know if they're, I think, one of the worst teams in college football right now. So I'm not even sure you consider that a game. But, one of the things, you look down their roster, a lot of their guys took advantage of the COVID year. They've got some 6th and 7th year guys there through some red shirts. And, their quarterback's not going to beat you deep, but he's very efficient. And I like the running back, senior running back. He's big, and they're doing a very balanced, controlling the clock. And I think Michigan State was exposed a little bit in their secondary last weekend. So I think Minnesota gets this one done on the road, and Michigan State is kind of looking Monday back at the drawing board to see what they need to do to get the ship right. Coach?
There was a movie made about last week's Michigan State-Washington game. You may have seen it, Sleepless in Seattle. And Sparty didn't know what hit them. They weren't ready. And by the time that they got their senses, it was too late to catch up. But takes nothing away at all from the effort that Washington made. And Mike Phoenix, the transfer quarterback from Indiana, he knew the Spartans well. But Mel Tucker, he's a Nick Saban disciple, to get that out correctly. And they don't like to lose 2 times in a row. As a matter of fact, Mel Tucker called himself a horse bleat coach right now. And I think that Sparty is going to take care of the Gophers.
Okay. Steve.
Mohamed Ibrahim is a beast at running back for PJ Fleck's Golden Gophers, averaging 8.8 yards a carry. He put up 202 yards against Colorado. But as a teacher, I'm going to keep preaching this lesson. We're not picking last week's games. We're picking this week's games. Michigan State with a solid run defense, only giving up 17 points a game. I think they bounce back at home. Give me Mel Tucker and Sparty for the win.
All right. We got a split field. Which way will the 8-ball tip it? 8-ball likes Sparty as well. Likes Sparty at home and thinks that they bounce back. And very good point, Steve. I think, you look, Texas A&M, I was very hard on them last week, and that's why we play these games every week. What they do one week does not necessarily translate to what they do the next week. So the next game on our slate here is Notre Dame at North Carolina, 2:30 game on ABC. The first 2 questions I got for North Carolina is, 1, do they have anybody other than freshmen playing? They have freshman quarterback, freshman running back. And 2, do they have a defense? They haven't stopped anybody. And, so as high-powered as their offense has been, they don't seem to be able to stop anybody. That said, though, still was not very impressed with Notre Dame. I know they squeaked out a win. Was not very impressed. It was looked to me a very uninspired Cal team and did enough to win at home. But I think that, Notre Dame, they got to grind it out for points. I think North Carolina's got too many weapons. And if they can get 1 or 2 stops, which I think they will at home, so I'm going with the Tar Heels. Coach?
Never underestimate Gene Chizik as a defensive coordinator. I think he and Gary Patterson are probably the 2 best defensive coordinators in the business. I know a lot can be said of people, and I know Alabama fans are going to say, Nick Saban. Nick Saban is a good tactician from the defensive side of the ball. But the thing that Nick Saban does, he just makes sure he's got the best players, make sure he gets them in position to make plays, and they do. So, but I'm talking about strictly from a scheme standpoint. Nobody can out-scheme you any better than Gene Chizik and Gary Patterson. That being said, I don't think it's going to take a lot of scheming to slow down this Notre Dame offense. Mac Brown, in his second time around in Chapel Hill, he's got them going. The Tar Heels stay undefeated, North Carolina.
Steve.
All right, an interesting matchup here as Notre Dame has big problems on the offensive side of the ball. North Carolina has been weak on defense. They've got a bad habit of giving up big leads. This is kind of the resistible object and the movable force. But Notre Dame treated me well last week, and even though I said we're not picking last week's games, I will take the Fighting Irish to make it 2 in a row.
Interesting. All right, Will, what do you think?
I got my Tar Heels at home. Like you said, and their roster's flooded with freshmen, but very talented freshmen. And I think they've stepped up very quickly. Their quarterback, Drake Mays, played unbelievable. But I think Carolina's been tested. They were tested at App State, and then they got tested last week at Georgia State and had to squeak one out there. But I think they're tested to win a close game. I think it'll be a close one, but I think they get it done at home against Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I think too. It's 2:30 game. Marquee matchup, middle of the day, lots of national attention. I think like I said, North Carolina, and I think the 8 Ball agrees. North Carolina gets it done at home, in front of the crowd, and in front of a national TV audience. So, hey, Coach, touch on something that you mentioned there real quick and I think that's something that's probably gone overlooked. Is what a steal it was for Texas to get Gary Patterson and that football mind that he's got and the impact he's had just on that defense in such a short period of time. Steve Sarkisian to get that hire, to bring him to a staff, was probably the coup of the year as far as a hire to get that mind and that quality of a coach to join your staff. And then, when you see a guy like that and the impact he's already have, it's good. Glad to see it happen for him, but it's definitely, I think you hit the nail on the head. There isn't anybody better out there that can scheme.
No, look at what he did to this Alabama offense a couple of weeks ago. Make no mistake, that was his game plan from the get-go. That's probably what he's been working on since he was hired at Texas. But bottom line, like I said, he's just an unbelievable defensive mind. But Steve, I'll tell you, I have to say that, I'm Catholic, and I didn't even pick Notre Dame. So thank you for at least coming through for one pick here.
Well, I don't mind being out on the limb. So far this year, it's worked out okay for me, but I'm not giving that. If we were ranking them with confidence picks, that one wouldn't be very high for me.
So, all right, next game. Coach, you're going to lead it off with this one. Number 15, Oregon at Washington State, 3 p.m. game on Fox.
I know the Cougars knocked off Wisconsin in Madison. I know they're playing at home, but the Ducks, they've got their quack back. Bo Nix, another big day. Oregon.
Steve.
Oregon has won the past 2 meetings by an average of 14 points. Bo Nix was great last week, and the Cougars have QB transfer Cameron Ward. Call me crazy, but I see Oregon having a letdown after that big home win last week. And plus, you have to factor in the Bo Nix effect. How often does he play great 2 weeks in a row? So I'm going to pick the upset here, taking the Cougars for the win.
Will.
As an Auburn fan, Steve, I'll tell you, not very often. But I'm going to go with the once in a lifetime here. I think he plays good back to back, and I think they get the job done.
I'm going to agree. I think I know that is Bo Nix, but I think getting out of Alabama and Auburn and getting up to Oregon, it's taking a little pressure off him and that expectation. And I think he likes where he's at up there. I think he meshes well with the head coach up there, and so I think he does play well 2 weeks in a row here, and I think he gets it done on the road. And I've got Oregon as well.
Come on, 8 Ball.
Well, Steve, you and the 8 Ball, great minds think alike. 8-ball has Washington State. Wazoo. I know you'll be out there on college game day holding the Wazoo flag. You must have gotten designated this week, right?
Just don't tell me that these games are, the 11:30 kickoffs. It's tough to keep up with the Pac-12.
Now, fortunately, we only got one on the Pac-12 network, and the latest game is 6 p.m. So now I will tell you, talking about the Pac-12, I mean, this is a tight matchup, but somebody in this game's got to figure out a way to play some good, inspiring football. You got Arizona at Cal, 4:30 on the Pac-12. Steve, who do you like?
All right, this one's got me scratching my head because Cal's offense has been very inconsistent. They've been stout on defense. Arizona's offense has been their bright spot this season. Jaden DeLaura has been playing well at QB for Arizona. But in a tough one at home, I'll take the Cal Bears.
Will?
I'll go with Cal at home too. And the only reason is because Auburn plays them next year, and I hope they win. That way they look a little bit better. That way when we beat them at Cal next year, we look good too.
There you go. And I'm sure you'll be making that trip.
And maybe.
The one that tips it for me on this is the home team. I think Cal wins it at home, and I think, they got to figure out a way, though, on offense. Lots of miscues, mistakes, drop passes last week, wrong routes run. But I think being at home, I think that tips it. So I got Cal. Coach?
These are two programs, surprisingly, that are trying to get to 3-1. Cal made a ton of mistakes, especially offensively at Notre Dame. Arizona lucky to beat North Dakota State University, which, again, North Dakota State has knocked off Division I folks time and time again. Going to Cal is not easy. And I know Arizona is used to going there, but that visitor's locker room is about the size of the room that I'm sitting in right now. No AC. You have to walk a maze to get from the locker room to the stadium or to the playing surface. You're in the stadium, but you have to kind of maze your way through back tunnels and a back hallway to get to the playing field. That's the best reason I can give you that I'm picking Cal at home.
Well, there you go. Coach, if you don't have any AC, maybe you can find somebody enter the Beat the Magic 8-Ball Challenge. $5,000 would probably put a nice AC in that room for you.
Yeah.
So, well, we're all in consensus there. 8-Ball likes the home team as well. 8-Ball goes with Cal. So, and that brings us to the last matchup of the night. And the night game on ESPN, 6 p.m. And you got number 10 Arkansas, who fought for their life last week to get a victory that looked like it was actually out of reach, and they found a way. And most people had Texas A&M, already, buried, and they figured out a way to beat Miami at home. So I think this one's going to be probably one of the more interesting matches of the day. Will, who do you like?
I mean, other than Florida and Tennessee, I think this is the best SEC game this weekend. And I honestly think it could go either way. Obviously, it's a neutral field, but in Texas, I think Sam Pittman probably lit a fire under their rear last week, almost letting that one slip. So I think they come out ready to go. I think they win. I got Arkansas.
Shockingly, as hard as I was on A&M last week, I am impressed by their defense. And, it just seems like Arkansas has some type of blunder, aggressive coaching call that doesn't pan out or blown coverage somewhere. And I just think A&M, home environment, defense, getting a little bit better quarterback play, I thought last week. I think going to be a very close game, but I think Texas A&M gets it done at home. Coach?
Now, are we saying it's home just because they're playing in Texas? I'm just asking.
I think because it's listed on the schedule as at A&M.
I got you. Okay.
It is.
Right. Well, Jerry Jones, the Arkansas alum, he's going to make sure that he can make things as difficult as he can on those Aggies. But all kidding aside, I don't know if Texas A&M did what they needed to do to win last week. because they performed, or if Miami just laid them some gifts in their laps and they took advantage of it. But I do know this about Arkansas. In previous days, in the Brett Bielema days, in the Chad Morris's day, Arkansas would not have won that game after falling behind by 17 points. That says something about Sam Pittman and what he's done with his team. Sort of like Will said, I bet that he had a come to Jesus meeting with those guys at halftime, and they responded. In the past couple of coaches, they would not have done that. So to borrow Sam's metaphor, I think Sam's going to bring the hard liquor on Saturday. And after the game, Jimbo and those Texas A&M boosters, they're going to need it. I'm going Arkansas.
There you go. And Steve, you started us off. You're going to finish it off. And again, another game in your backyard. As somebody who grew up in Texas, even though it is a Jerry World, for some reason it still feels like it's home for Texas A&M.
Well, we've got 10th ranked Arkansas, 23rd ranked Texas A&M. I think both schools were smart to schedule this on a year-to-year basis at Jerry Jones Stadium in Arlington, because both those schools recruit very heavily in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So they've got a neutral site game, and they bring in all their recruits for this one. A&M's coming off the big home win over 12th ranked Miami. Arkansas was victorious in the Bobby Petrino Bowl, edging Missouri State. I think you have a tale of two quarterbacks heading in different directions here. Even though the Aggies have won 9 out of the past 10 against Arkansas, we don't know if Max Johnson can put together a complete game. KJ Jefferson is completing 70% of his passes. And as much as it would pain my son to hear me make this pick, woo pig suey.
Oh, Steve. You were on board last week.
It's a week-to-week league.
It is a week-to-week league. So, and 8-Ball likes woo pig suey. So, it figures, and look, and Sam Pittman's done a great job there. It just seems like a lot of times they play loose, and sometimes when you play loose, you get burned. And I just, Texas A&M's defense has been strong. So, Coach, I know Inside the Numbers on Friday is going to do a little bit more detail on the Clemson-Wake Forest game, Tennessee-Florida, and I believe Arkansas-Texas A&M.
Yeah, we'll go a little bit more in depth on those three games. Mike Bernard and I will be doing that on Friday morning.
Yeah, if you haven't had a chance, the link to Inside the Numbers is in the description. So please, check that out. Mike and Bernard, Coach, can give you a little bit more in-depth analysis and break down a few more statistics on Inside the Numbers. If you haven't had the chance yet, please like and subscribe to GameDay Sports Radio. And reminder, visit GameDaySportsRadio.com this weekend. We'll have all the information up for you to start submitting your picks to where you can see if you have what it takes to master the Magic 8-Ball and join us and submit your picks for an opportunity to win up to $5,000 in cash and prizes. Anything you guys want to add before we wrap it up tonight? Coach?
Just ready for the weekend to get started and to enjoy some of these games. I'll have to say that I don't like the cupcake weeks, and now we're getting into some better games. And I think the next 6 to 8 weeks, that's my favorite part of college football season.
Yeah. Steve, I know your son is at A&M. It's at the game. While it is listed at home for Texas A&M, it is in the backyard. You're going to be able to attend that one in person?
So I am not, but he is. And so to me, it's a good weekend because he'll be coming home. So excited about that. And conference season.
There you go, Will. And I know you got your hands full chasing that little one around, but hopefully you get to enjoy the Auburn game on Saturday. And I appreciate you guys getting on tonight and making your picks. And we'll see a lot of differences of an opinion tonight. So I think, we'll see between us, and not only between us, but also the 8-Ball. So I think we'll see a little bit of separation in the tally come come Sunday. So
I'm for
you guys have a
shake-up.
great week. You guys have a great week, and I'm looking forward to seeing some good college football this weekend.
Agreed.